Boom! It's Monday night. It was the night before the House of Keys and Tynwald in one day. Bonzo, it's a bumper
Hello.
edition. How are you, sir?
Oh gosh, well, my head's spinning, absolutely spinning, because we have just got so much on this week. Of course, Easter coming up, so it's the Easter recess. So before no more Latin, no more French, no more sitting on the old hard bench. There's bits of bills to pass, and questions to ask, and all sorts of other governmentally type things to do.
But we had quite a melee this afternoon, where Mr. Robertshaw, he tore a few folk to shreds, didn't he? And it was on air. We all got to hear the carnage. What was your take on it?
Oh, yes. Well, this is another example of how government, a lot of people think, government very dull, very, very dry. It's a committee somewhere talking about something. And you have to go on the Tynwald website to actually hear it, and then sit there like a political anorak going, oh yes, competition policy, that's marvellous, etc. Don't think about all that. When you hear what you're going to hear for the next couple of minutes, just think this is a headmaster who's asking the two boys in front of him why they haven't done their homework, persistently for quite some time, and why they are so bad at making excuses about doing their homework.
I'm the first to admit that there is a future potential for that, but do you not both feel that it's very important that OFT is open and transparent with the membership of Keys, and the membership of Keys is under the distinct impression, because of utterances by you, Mr. Perkins, that this is a matter of extreme urgency and a fact.
Well, I think we got the gist of it. I mean, really, it was something to behold. It was.
Give me a moment. I'll get it. Oh, there we go.
Oh, some more.
Yeah, I'm the first to admit that there is a.
Sorry about that.
There is a future potential.
You'll have to listen to that bit again.
Do you not both feel that it's very important that
This is what happens when you have to do a program on the fly.
Transparent with the membership and the.
I think we'll ditch that one.
We're being defeated by technology.
I think we're both capable of actually recalling what happened, and it was an embarrassment for anyone that was involved. Really, I think those on the questioning side and those that were on the sharp end. I mean, it was good of Claire Barber to kind of carefully placate things, but also stick the old knife in as well, because the whole proceedings were cut short, weren't they? This should have gone on a lot longer, and basically they've said, look, this can't go on anymore.
There was no point in doing it. Chris Robertshaw was pretty much foaming at the mouth, and just no, I can't be doing with this anymore. This is just absolutely silly. The very idea that people are sort of alive and getting paid as well, and in various appointments, and they come to a committee of Tynwald, and they just don't have an idea what's going on. As one point, I think Chris Robertshaw used the term to Perkins that he was appalled that the head of the OFT was so ill-informed. Which, of course, is about as parliamentary language as you can. For you haven't done your homework, son, have you? Come on, just admit it. Stop wasting my time. You haven't done your homework. You've got no idea what it is you're talking about.
The irony is, though, is that the OFT, the role is to protect the rights of the Manx consumer. And we know that they've been completely inactive. They've been inactive. But this shows that folk on the Isle of Man, if you haven't got a huge amount of wedge or cash to spend in the small claims court, the high claims court, whatever, you are getting shafted and you're under the cosh. And these people that are in power are loving this. This is no mistake. This is orchestrated.
Well, yes, you were saying the OFT is there to protect the Manx consumer. Well, you may think that, but I couldn't possibly comment. Of course, the OFT is now located out in what's the building called? But it's in
Llewellyn.
Well, yes, but it's a Manx.
Yeah.
Llewellyn, yes. In St John's, in Deffa, as far away from business as possibly can be. So that it's so inconvenient to have meetings with people, and it just makes life so much easier for business not to have to deal with the OFT, because once upon a time the OFT, of course, used to sit right slap bang in the middle of Douglas, in where is now the Isle of Man Army Reserve Centre, but I think it used to be a school, didn't it, before then?
Yes, that's right, Lord Street. I remember.
In Lord Street. Yeah.
Beautiful building.
Yeah.
Accrington brick.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, it's a long way away, and well out of the hair of any business or business persons who might feel annoyed by its very, very limited powers. Although they did in this particular session go on about, we've recently been doing 20, 30 cases. Well, yeah. They'll be doing 20 or 30 cases because I think under the COVID regime of with emergency powers, there were various bits about essentially spivving and price gouging, which were there from an act from 1936. Stop people siphoning off petrol and the like, or selling a pound of sausages at twice the price, rather than the kind of things that we see reported to OFT time and time again, which is just the abuse of a monopoly, whether it's a granted one or whether it's one that's just kind of evolved, or general sharp practice, island charging. Well, yeah, Gov, we're on an island, it costs more, doesn't it? All those sort of things. And those are the kind of consumer issues that people expect an Office of Fair Trading to deal with, not monopolies and mergers, where you're looking at fines for not complying with the regulation there of up to 10% of turnover. Now, these are regulations that meant to be applied, and indeed I applied them in a previous life in Whitehall as part of competition policy in the DTI there. But they're meant to apply to mergers of companies that have 200, 400, 500 million pounds turnover, more than that even, rather than Tuppenny Halfpenny, well, comparatively speaking, Tuppenny Halfpenny businesses on the Isle of Man.
Well, in this instance, the bus vanning versus the taxi trade has been on the books for nearly a year, and they're not expecting a resolution till the end of this year. And this is now going to include a third-party investigation, and there's great difficulty about where that is going to be sourced from. But ultimately, people are losing out. The public are losing out, and those with vested interests, even bus vanning, are losing out. Everything's stalled. It's just a disgrace, and that's all there is to it. But I'd urge anyone to tune in. Go onto the Tynwald page and listen to it, and listen again for yourself, because it was an embarrassment, wasn't it? It was a cringe fest.
Yeah. I've never heard the like. I mean, I've been following Tynwald now in more detail for about the past 12 years. I came back to the island nearly 20 years ago and sort of looked at it from the corner of my eye, but I've been looking at it in more detail, as I say, for the past 12 years, and I've heard nothing like this. Not at all. Well, no, this is absolutely extraordinary. I know Christopher Robshaw doesn't really have anything to lose. I mean, he's not standing again. He's got full pension as an MHK. He doesn't have to worry about that. He had that last time. Well, yeah, he doesn't need it anyway, but I mean, that's indifferent. So he can do what he likes, and he's taking some pot shots now, and he's scoring some really, really, really good hits, exposing the Isle of Man government, I'm afraid, for the rather paper tiger that it is.
Well, shall we move on to tomorrow's business, because there could be a double, triple helping, or maybe more. Let's just take a pick. Talk us through what's happening tomorrow, because we've got the Tynwald and House of Keys combo on offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tynwald emergency session. Firstly, for a COVID-19 statement from the Chief Minister. I don't know what that's going today, but we wait and see. I think that's more of the possible way forward that he was mentioning today about relaxation of restrictions from the 6th of April, which probably will be a gradual thing, I would expect, rather than lockdowns over, happy joy, everyone does that. And after the Manx Care Act, as you know, Manx Care is going live in the next few weeks. So Manx Care will be looking after all social care stuff as a standalone agency, arm's length organisation under the Department of Health and Social Care. And as part of the regulations to establish that whole thing, we've had the Manx Care Bill, obviously, which produced the Manx Care Act, but also the Manx Care Duty of Candour Procedures Regulation 2021. Now, this is a very interesting piece of legislation in that it obliges, for the first time in Manx law, which it did in UK law, but it didn't here. It obliges in Manx law the duty of medical professionals and such to essentially give all the facts to Manx Care and its bodies, rather than only to their own professional body. Now, and once upon a time, if something happened and you had some liability, then you would report it to the professional body that you were a member of, because it's the professional body that says whether you can work as whatever it is that you're being employed as, whether a nurse or a surgeon or some such. But Manx law didn't insist on that being then shared with with elements of DHSC. So things tended to go under the radar. And this is why, well, one of the elements, I think, why we had a variety of issues at Nobles and other places that went under the radar and then were settled with non-disclosure agreements.
We never knew the half. We never knew the half.
No, we never knew the half, and because of non-disclosure agreements, etc., you won't. We did know the bill. I think it was something like £3.54 million in legal settlements.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the somewhere in the Tynwald records.
Yeah.
And you'll find it there. But that's one thing that even though it looks like just a little thing, some regulations, very important. And this is the thing about legislation and regulations. These big things, bills, most of it, yeah. But sometimes you can just get little bits of it, and they're the thing that everything revolves around, and they're the things that matter to you and me and other people in the street.
So just tell me, it's not a backdoor move for privatisation, is it? Manx Care, it's not going to steer the way there, is it?
Well, it could do. They say, it's an arm's length organisation, but then an arm's length organisation can start outsourcing, and then you're on the slippery slope.
Yeah.
And of course, the decision about outsourcing is with the arm's length organisation, because it's not directly controlled by the minister at Department of Health and Social Care.
Well, we know that the hospital and services have asked for an extra, 10 million quid or so over the last few years. So there's got to be some controls there. Listen, we're just coming up to about 10 minutes to go. Can we jump into the House of Keys tomorrow and some of the questions that have caught your eye? Gavin.
Well, there's a few. a lot of these questions have actually rolled over from last week because of the fact that they timed out questions by Mr. Baker droning on and on and on, a technique known as filibustering, for those who haven't heard that term before. So we have a variety of questions here. I think there was a particular one. Oh, yes. Question 6, again, with Julie Edge talking again about the advice that was given to ministers about closure of schools, etc., etc. If you remember from last week, where she was talking about she managed to actually find in a written answer that Comyn was given verbal advice and then acted on verbal advice. No supporting documents or minute. Well, although there'd be Comyn minutes, no supporting documents or submissions.
So let's just track back here, because this is this is the key weekend where it all went wrong. It's been phrased this flip-flop weekend, where we had this problem emerging in the schools. We had the decision on Saturday, the advice to say stay at home, but not everyone did. Then everything went back to normal on Sunday, and then it's okay to go back to schools. And we know the domino effect, but it's that weekend which led to lockdown 3 and the illness running rampant through the community with some awful outcomes, as we know. So what they're saying is that for that decision to be made, there wasn't any documentation. There's not one bit of not a scribble on a piece of paper, and she's got wind of that, hasn't she? What's her incentive there? What's she going to get out of it?
Well, the thing is about the decision-making process in Comyn and the way that Comyn is advised. Because transparency of government, you should be able to, even if not at the time, you should be able to go back to the archives, in a couple of years, maybe 5 years or something like that, and be able to look at the papers and see who said what and who recommended what. You can do that in the UK. You can go back to various government papers, and some of which held on to 5-10-year rule, some of the more sensitive stuff on 30-year rule, and you can see the papers which provided, which have the advice that civil servants provided, and then you can see the minutes of the various committee meetings, etc., that then made that decision. But here, no, the convention is that Comyn minutes are never released, and that the advice to Comyn is never released.
No.
So so a secret world of government, where government essentially cannot be held accountable, because how can you be held accountable for something that you can't actually say happened, because there's no documentation?
But if you look at her written questions for written answer, which is number 1, and she's asking how many cases of COVID-19 have been identified in school children, broken down by school since January 21. So she could be onto something here, couldn't she? Because that is documented.
That's why she's doing this question. This goes to what advice was issued to the Council of Ministers by clinical leads, Director of Public Health, which led to the decision to keep schools open on 1st of March. Right? So it's trying to find out what happened at either end. Essentially, just going back to her written one. Now, she's then trying to, off the back of that, trying to see what the geographical sort of distribution of the infection rate was. Seeing as the current outbreak of COVID-19 came mostly from children, because children are the big transmitters of that. However, you wouldn't be able to answer some of that, because with smaller schools that would also risk the confidentiality of the cases, and that's not legal. But with larger schools, you can give that kind of number. Anything less than 250, I think it would be a bit hard.
We just had Bod the Cap chip in. No paper trail, no accountability in weeks or months to come. And I just wonder if Mrs. Edge, the edge of darkness, closer to the edge, whether she's got a sniff of the smoking gun. That's what she's aiming at.
I think as Deep Throat said in Watergate to Woodward, you're on the right track, but you're asking the wrong questions. That's as far as I'm going to go.
Watch this space. Well, anything else is catching your eye on the papers, Bonzo?
Of course, further down are all the bills that they still have to get through, such as the landlord registration bill. Oh, we all know what fun that's been. A very controversial piece of legislation. And then getting down to the competition bill, which of course we were talking about earlier with Mr. Robertshaw's interventions to OFT. Now, 2-1, I would say that bill is going to be withdrawn tomorrow, because otherwise they are going to be shot to pieces by Robertshaw and various others. It would be much easier for them to climb down and say, okay, this isn't a terribly all right, having thought about it, this would be better in some kind of fair trading consumer protection bill, which we'll do in the first year of the next programme from government, and we can leave that for them to do. Or they could try and stick it out, and as I say, be shot to pieces and totally humiliated. So I think they will choose the lesser of two evils and back down with their tail between their legs, and obviously get a bit of a drubbing for that. But and then there's the consideration of legislative council amendments on the Justice Reform Bill, and so that'll keep Keys busy for all of Tuesday, or for the rest of into Wednesday, because Tynwald will be taking up quite some time of tomorrow, and then on Wednesday you've got Legislative Council. And they're going back over the bits of the climate change bill which they didn't manage to sort out last week because there were all sorts of drafting kerfuffles and problems.
There's not a huge amount to be joyful about in the climate change bill. Look, we're just coming down to 2 minutes to go. But speaking of bills, we've got top of the bill this week.
Top of the bill, and again, this is the kind of thing we were saying about the best bits are sometimes, the best acts of the festival are sometimes the ones on the side stage, not the ones on the main stage. 3:00 Thursday afternoon, Dr. Rachel Glover will be giving evidence on COVID and her role in genomics and in COVID testing. And that will be from 3:00 in the afternoon and will be carried on the audio feed from Tynwald. So you go to the Tynwald site and you go to the bit along that says listen, and then click that, and then it'll show the bit that's active that then you can click on, and then you'll start hearing things. That is going to be absolute dynamite.
Well, there's no question about it. That is one very angry individual, and I think we only got to know the half. Okay, not even that.
Oh, okay.
But if she is that intent on spilling the beans, it will be something to listen to. I just hope there isn't some interference or anything, before that, because she really could let rip, couldn't she? She's the expert.
Well, yeah. The thing is, this is going to will overlap into the media conference at 4:00 on Thursday. But I get the impression that if Rachel Glover is going to say the things that she might say, that they might find that there aren't very many journalists asking questions at the media conference because they're too busy
Absolutely.
looking at something else.
Absolutely. These things don't happen by accident, folks. There's no question about it. It's all detailed and planned.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're just going to wind up. So viewers, listeners, thank you for tuning in tonight. Please comment and subscribe. Let us know if there's anything you'd like us to answer in next week's edition. But most of all, thank you, Bonzo.
Are we having a next week's edition?
Oh, it's Easter, isn't it?
It's the Easter. It's Easter Monday.
Oh,
We're not going.
blimey, we can't do that. But then there could be an Easter uprising by the looks of things.
Well, there could be.
There could be.
But by the Monday afterwards, there may be order papers and things for us to discuss. So let's not rule out next Monday. But if we're not on air again, well, if I'm not on air again before then, anyway. So happy Easter, everybody.
Hey.
And I hope you find the eggs at the bottom of your garden.
Oh, love it. What's your favourite type of chocolate? Just before we go, what do you go for first?
Oh, yeah. Well, I like the Lint Bunnies. They're more pretty, aren't they?
Oh, they're gorgeous, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those Swiss factories churn them out, don't they? Handcrafted by the chocolatier. Oh God!
Yes, handcrafted by a chocolatier at the end of a big conveyor belt with the machine. But of course, the Swiss chocolates now are really the only thing we can get because Belgian chocolates. Oh no, can't have those.
Oh, of course, yeah.
They're part of the EU, 30% duty or whatever.
Oh dear, I've forgotten all about that. Well, it's been lovely to chat a bit of independent news, which is unlike the BBC at the moment, not reporting the Boris Johnson dodgy so-and-so behaviour, which kind of...
What the fun with flags?
The fun with flags, yeah, 140 grand? 40, oh dear. Oh, well.
Oh no, you didn't say, I don't know if you saw the photograph of a certain woman in a Union Jack dress.
Yeah.
But the 2.5 million for the B&Q setup to have press conferences in, and £100 in a green screen, for God's sake.
Oh, I missed that tonight. Right, okay, let's cut it. All right.
Okay.
Adios. Goodbye, everyone. All right.
Adios. Bye.